announcements, none. Papers have been laid. Questions?
Yes, Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've given notice of the following private notice question addressed to the Honourable Minister of Commerce and Consumer Protection, whether in regard to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, he will state if any study has been carried out on the impact thereof on the purchasing power of the citizens of Mauritius, and if so, indicate the findings thereof and the measures his ministry proposes to take in relation thereto, and B, for the benefit of the House, obtain from the State Trading Corporation information as to the Roman I current state of the price stabilization account of mogas and gasoil and the projected expenditure thereof over the next 6 months, and Roman II amount disbursed from the price stabilization fund to date, indicating how same has been disbursed and how the remaining balance will be spent over the next 3 months.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, the present conflict in the Middle East has significantly heightened geopolitical risks in global markets and introduced a sustained layer of uncertainty in both energy and trade dynamics. The region remains central to the global energy system, with a substantial share of crude oil and refined petroleum products transiting through strategic choke points, such as Strait of Hormuz. In such a context, even the perception of disruption has led to the rapid incorporation of geopolitical premium into international oil prices, alongside increased freight and insurance costs and heightened volatility across commodity markets. Beyond energy markets, the conflict is also exerting pressure on global trade flows and supply chains more broadly. Disruptions to shipping routes, longer transit times, and higher logistical costs are affecting the movements of goods worldwide. At the same time, heightened global uncertainty has contributed to a strengthening of the US dollar, thereby increasing the cost of imports for many countries, including Mauritius. These developments are interconnected and reinforcing, creating a complex and evolving external environment. Madam Speaker, as a small, open, and highly import-dependent economy, Mauritius is particularly exposed to such global developments. The transmission of these external shocks to our domestic economy occurs through several interrelated channels. Firstly, higher international petroleum prices directly impact transport costs, electricity generation, and production costs across the economy. Given the central role of energy in all economic activities, increases in petroleum prices have a cascading effect across sectors, including manufacturing, distribution, and services. Secondly, the increase in global prices of food commodities and agricultural inputs is exerting sustained pressure on the costs of imported food. This is compounded by higher fertilizer prices and input costs in producing countries, which ultimately feed into global food prices. This situation is being closely monitored by my ministry in consultation with key stakeholders, including the Mauritius Chamber of Commerce and Industry. At present, the full impact of these increases has not yet been transmitted to the local market, as consignment reflecting higher international prices are still in the pipeline. However, should current conditions persist, upward pressure on retail prices is expected in the coming weeks. Thirdly, exchange rate movements are amplifying imported inflation. The strengthening of the US dollar increases the domestic cost of imports denominated in foreign currency, thereby further increasing the cost of essential goods. Fourthly, logistical constraints such as tighter freight availability, higher shipping costs, longer lead times, and sourcing challenges from certain regions are contributing to additional cost pressures and operational difficulties for importers. In addition, disruptions in air freight capacity are affecting high-value and time-sensitive imports. Furthermore, constraint in foreign exchange availability and tighter payments timelines imposed by suppliers are placing additional pressure on importers' cash flows, thereby influencing price dynamics and the timing of imports. Taken together, these factors constitute a broad-based external shock affecting both the cost structure of the economy and the purchasing power of households. Madam Speaker, I am informed by the Ministry of Finance that the Macroeconomic Coordination Committee, which comprises representatives of the Prime Minister's Office, the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Mauritius, Statistics Mauritius, and the Economic Development Board, has worked out different scenarios of the impact of the conflict on the economy. The committee has taken into account the fact that as a small, open and net energy and food importing economy, Mauritius is primarily affected by the adverse impacts of the conflict through A, an increase in our fuel and food import bill, B, higher freight and insurance costs on our imports, and C, possible effects on foreign direct investment and the tourism sector. The committee has estimated the likely impact of the conflict on the GDP growth rate, the tourism sector, the balance of payment, and the public finance. The committee has also considered the likely impact on the conflict on the inflation rate. I am informed that the inflation rate was initially estimated to be between 3.6% and 4% on average in 2026. It is now estimated that the inflation rate could go up to 6%, depending on the trend in global prices of oil and other commodities. Against this backdrop, and in order to ensure a coordinated and proactive response, a high-level committee chaired by the Financial Secretary and bringing together Business Mauritius and key public bodies has been set up to take stock of the latest developments, assess the likely implications of a conflict on our economy, and come up with appropriate policy measures. A subcommittee has also been set up to specifically look into the impact of a conflict on SMEs and the most vulnerable, and to come up with appropriate measures to support them. My ministry is a member of a subcommittee. The subcommittee met yesterday and is closely monitoring the likely impact of a conflict. The subcommittee will look into the possible measures that may be considered. Madam Speaker, members of the House will recall that government has adopted a comprehensive and coordinated approach aimed at both supporting purchasing power and mitigating the impact of rising global prices. Government has taken measures to directly reduce cost pressures, including the reduction in the retail price of diesel by 5 rupees per litre and mogas by 7 rupees and 75 cents per litre, as well as the removal of VAT on a number of basic items, including frozen and canned vegetables, infant nutrition products, and baby food. These measures are complemented by a robust and well-established price control framework administered by the Price and Monitoring Division of my ministry, which currently regulates more than 25,000 products across Mauritius and Rodrigues. Madam Speaker, this framework operates through three distinct pricing mechanisms. Firstly, under the maximum markup regime, a fixed margin is applied on the import cost, comprising supplier price, freight, and insurance, to determine the maximum retail price. This regime currently covers around 30 essential commodities in Mauritius, including milk powder, edible oil, infant food, rice, canned products, frozen vegetables, butter, and margarine, and has been progressively expanded in response to rising international prices. In Rodrigues, a similar regime applies to a broad range of essential commodities to ensure price parity and affordability. Secondly, under the maximum fixed price regime, the wholesale and retail prices of key strategic products are determined on the basis of a controlled cost structure. These include essential items such as scheduled bread, LPG, mogas, gas oil, flour, ration rice, edible oil, and milk powder supplied through the State Trading Corporation. This mechanism ensures price stability for the products of direct importance to the cost of living. Thirdly, pharmaceutical products are regulated under a regressive maximum markup mechanism, whereby the applicable markup decreases as the import price increases. This mechanism applies to critical classes of medicines, including anti-diabetic, anti-hypertensive, and cardiovascular products, thereby ensuring that essential treatments remain accessible and affordable, particularly for vulnerable groups. Madam Speaker, this price control framework is not static and has been continuously reinforced. In parallel, my ministry operates a price observatory which conducts continuous monitoring and analysis of retail prices across a basket of widely consumed products covering 700 brands and retail outlets. This system enables the timely identification of price trends and support evidence-based policy intervention. Madam Speaker, a central pillar of government intervention is the implementation of a price stabilization fund with a framework of 10 billion rupees over 5 years and an initial allocation of 2 billion rupees. Under this mechanism, a fixed quantum subsidy scheme was introduced as from 26th of August 2025 on essential commodities such as milk powder, edible oil, infant milk, baby diapers, and processed cheese. These subsidies have been applied directly to retail prices, resulting in immediate reductions which have been maintained over time. As at date, a total of approximately 628 million rupees has been disbursed to eligible operators, with 110 million paid in the last 3 months only. This includes the fixed subsidy refund on essential products covered by the fund. Overall, total disbursement under the Price Stabilization Fund, including subsidies on essential commodities, are expected to reach 1.6 billion rupees by the end of the financial year, that is for a period of 10 months. Madam Speaker, building on the effectiveness of these measures, government has already expanded the subsidy framework to a wider basket of essential commodities. This includes subsidies on canned fish, pulses, and adult diapers, as well as targeted pharmaceutical support. In particular, a subsidy is being implemented on anti-hypertensive, cardiovascular, and anti-diabetic medicines, recognizing their high prevalence and significant impact on household expenditure. Madam Speaker, this integrated pricing and monitoring framework ensures that the price increases remain controlled, that unjustified price movements are identified and addressed promptly, and that the consumers are effectively protected in a context of international price volatility. My ministry has also reinforced in its inspection and enforcement activities to prevent unjustified price increases and to ensure full compliance with pricing regulation across the market. Madam Speaker, government is also actively addressing supply-side risks. The State Trading Corporation has been mandated to review and reinforce its procurement and sourcing strategies, including diversification of supply sources, strengthening engagement with international suppliers, and the exploration of government-to-government procurement arrangements. The State Trading Corporation is also actively looking into the possibility of extending the range of essential commodities it puts on the market at competitive prices. Furthermore, close monitoring of stock levels is being undertaken to ensure the maintenance of adequate buffer stocks for essential commodities, including food items and petroleum products. At the same time, government is engaging with stakeholders to address freight limitations, facilitate sourcing from alternative markets, and ensure continuity of supply. Madam Speaker, with regard to the price stabilization account for mogas and gas oil, I am informed that as at 23rd of March 2026, the PSA reflects a surplus of approximately 400 million rupees for mogas and a deficit of around 2.3 billion rupees for gas oil, resulting in a net deficit of about 1.9 billion rupees. The PSA remains a central instrument within the petroleum pricing framework. It is designed to absorb the smooth out fluctuations in international petroleum prices over time by accumulating surpluses during periods of lower prices and drawing down on these balances during periods of higher prices. In the current context of heightened volatility in international oil markets, this mechanism is playing a critical stabilizing role. It enables government to moderate the impact of sharp movements in global prices and to adopt a measured and calibrated approach in the determination of retail prices, in accordance with the applicable regulations. This ensures that while the pricing framework remains aligned with international market conditions, undue and abrupt increases are mitigated, thereby protecting consumers and maintaining economic stability. Madam Speaker, government's response is therefore anchored on a comprehensive and coordinated framework, combining direct price intervention through targeted subsidies, a robust and enforced price control regime, and a proactive management of supply chains. This integrated approach ensures that both the immediate impact of rising global prices and underlying risks to supply are effectively addressed, thereby limiting the transmission of external shocks to domestic consumers. The situation remains fluid, with continued volatility in international oil markets, freight costs, and exchange rates. Government is therefore maintaining close and continuous monitoring of developments and stands ready to calibrate its intervention as necessary. Madam Speaker, Government remains fully committed to safeguarding the purchasing power of the population, particularly the most vulnerable, and to ensuring at all times the continued availability, accessibility, and affordability of essential commodities across the country. Government will not hesitate to take any further required to protect consumers. Government will not hesitate to take any further measures required to protect consumers in the face of these external pressures. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. In view of the fact that you had no choice, but it took you 19 minutes, so I will extend the time for supplementary questions. Yes, Leader of the Opposition, your first supplementary, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. The Minister, in his reply, stated that with regard to prices that have increased on the world market, these prices have not been transmitted on the local market. But may I ask him whether he's aware that prices are already on the rise in our supermarkets?
Straightforward.
In fact, we are monitoring the situation almost every day. And when prices normally goes up, we have about 25,000 products which are control products. It's my ministry who gives the maximum markup of each product for these 25 basic products. I believe that the Leader of Opposition is not aware of this.
Next question.
My question is whether the Minister is aware.
He just said he's aware.
Question.
His ministry is aware.
Madam Speaker, we are aware it's a difficult time that some traders may exploit crisis conditions to inflate margins. Can the Honourable Minister inform the House whether a compilation of prices has been made since the beginning of the war by his ministry, and will he undertake to make the list of prices public?
Yes, Minister, straightforward.
In fact, we are working on a framework to have all the prices live. That is, anyone around the world can go on the internet and can see the prices around the supermarkets.
As they should be.
Yes.
As they should be. Yes?
Yes, again, Madam Speaker, my question is precise. Whether his ministry has carried out a compilation of the prices of commodities on the local market before the beginning of the war.
Local market.
Yes or no?
Your answer was regarding the local market.
Yes, yes.
Yes. I thought that was clear.
Madam Speaker, let me add something. Let me add something.
Yes.
Presently, we have a website. It's pfu.org. Anybody can go on the website and can see the different prices on the internet. But we want to do it a more user-friendly system, which is coming very soon.
Okay.
Yes, my question is because consumers, local consumers, need to be able to compare prices when they go to supermarket and buy those commodities.
There is a website, Madam Speaker. They can compare right now, and it will be more user-friendly in the near future.
Yes, and we believe, I also go to the supermarket, as you know. We meet there. Also, it so happens we meet there. Very nice place to be, supermarkets. What maybe we want to say is that newspapers and radios have to take, because everybody doesn't go on a website, Minister. Maybe that's the point. We make an appeal so that it's widely spread, more than on the web. Is that all right?
It will be done.
Good.
Sinon, on aurait eu l'impression qu'il veut protéger
Don't waste time.
les opérateurs au dépens des consommateurs, Madame la Présidente. Now, the Honourable Minister, in his reply, stated that there is a committee chaired by the FS, and that committee is looking into possible measures that may be considered with regard to mitigating the rising international freight rate, insurance premiums, and energy costs on essential consumer goods. Can we have an indication, because the situation is actually difficult for consumers, can we have an indication of what measures they are looking into, so that the public may know?
I think we will cross the bridge when we will reach there.
There might not be any bridge at some point in time, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Prime Minister indicated last week that petroleum products are secured through May 2026. May I ask the Honourable Minister whether his ministry has elaborated a contingency plan should any scheduled shipment fail to materialize due to conflict-related disruptions?
Yes, Minister?
We have Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. This is what we did. Madam Speaker, I'm not
Should
finished.
indicate what are those plans.
Yeah.
You can go until Plan Z.
I have not finished.
Yes.
Please listen.
Members, I can't hear. Yes.
There was an issue for fuel oil,
Yeah.
and we launched with Plan B. The Plan B was to launch a new tender for 48 hours, which we did. And in the meantime, the supplier launched his Plan B. Supply is coming from Singapore. This is the Plan B. It is coming very soon,
When?
on 2nd of April.
Good.
With regard to that consignment he mentioned, because we understand that oil will be used by the Central Electricity Board. Will the Honourable Minister inform the House which company has been allocated the consignment, and will he table a copy of the contract between the STC and the company for the sake of transparency?
Supplier is Sahara Energy, and I don't mind to table the contract.
Yes. Good.
We understand he will
I've got
table.
lots of people waiting.
Yeah.
You have a few more questions?
Of course.
Should
Can the Honourable Minister inform the House whether we already have a deal between Indian Oil Corporation Limited and the STC for the supply of gas oil, mogas, and heavy fuel oil?
We are almost finalizing the MOU. It will be signed very soon. We'll let you know.
good.
Also, may I ask him to confirm whether it is also with heavy fuel oil also, are we signing an agreement with them?
We are still working on it. Don't worry, we will let the nation know. We are unlike the previous government. Before we had a G2G with India, with MRPL, which they stopped the contract. And we are going to redo the G2G. And this time, the Indian government has chosen the Indian oil so as to discard all the commission paid to somebody.
Let's try and be, we know, we have heard this last week. So let's just, I've got a time problem. Members, Chief Whip. Yes, Let's do our best because I have a time problem. And lots of people are asking for questions. Yes.
Madam Speaker, with regard to the price of mogas and gas oil, I'd put that question to the Honourable Prime Minister last week, but his reply was very vague. May I ask the same question to the Honourable Minister of Commerce, whether government will consider reviewing the tax structure on mogas and gas oil, and here I'm referring to excise duty and VAT on those products?
Madam Speaker, we could have done it. However, the previous government put this economy in a mess, including the price stabilization account, which was 5.2 billion rupees at the time. And today it is at 1.9 billion rupees. We need, I have not finished, we need to pay all these debts, and then we'll review if need be. We'll go to cabinet, of course.
Yes.
Madame la Présidente, c'est eux qui avaient fait la promesse de baisser les prix de ces produits-là. Now, with regard to crude oil and its importance in the production of energy, can the Honourable Minister reassure the House that there will be no rise on the electricity bill for the citizens of this country?
Madam Speaker, I believe he should answer. He should question the substantive minister.
Yes. Next question. Next question.
Substantive minister is hiding, Madam Speaker. He said to the whole nation, to the Prime Minister, donne-moi sa poste là, dans 3 mois, mon baisse l'électricité. Menteur. Now, concerning energy importation, which impacts on price and the supply of commodities, mogas, gas oil, and LPG. Let me give you an example. Right now in India, there is... This is important, Madam Speaker.
No.
There is control on the sales of LPG. Can the Honourable Minister...
Leader of the Opposition, I am not going to allow you to make statements, and this applies to everyone. No statements, questions. Come with your question.
This is my question. With regard to LPG, is government envisaging some form of control on LPG gas? And in the same vein, may I ask the Honourable Minister to inform the population about a smart card that he made an announcement during budget time to control the sales of LPG. We are nearly 9 months down, and still we haven't heard of that smart card.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I will ask him, don't worry, we'll do it. It is in the pipeline. We are working closely with the Ministry of IT. It's coming very soon. During the last 10 years, we didn't do anything.
You finished? No? So you have to, I've already got 3 people waiting. So, Miss, you'll have to wait. Fourth, you're the fourth if we have time.
Madam Speaker, currently only 7 consumer products and 3 pharmaceutical categories benefit from the fixed quantum subsidies under the GSOG, that is the Government Subsidy on Essential Goods Scheme. Will the Honourable Minister consider an immediate expansion of the subsidized list to at least 50 essential items, giving priority to proteins and staples?
Madam Speaker, in fact, the State Trading Corporation will import a lot of basic commodities. On 6th of March 2026, STC has launched an open international bidding exercise for the supply of selected pulses, such as lima beans, white kidney beans, yellow split beans,
Minister,
brown lentils.
If I may, his question was on medicine.
No,
This question.
no, on food products.
The original question.
On food products.
Okay.
On 9th of March 2026, STC launched an international bidding exercise for supply of canned sardines, canned pilchards, canned mackerel, and canned tomatoes. These products will definitely increase more competition for these products.
You finished? Yes?
One last question.
Last, okay, then you.
With regard to the 10 billion rupees that was promised under the price stabilization fund. We understand that from the minister he said that MRA has already disbursed, let me see what he said, some 628 million rupees. Can he confirm that? And may I ask him also how he reconciles that in order for taxpayers to pay less, we are using taxpayers' money to pay suppliers of commodities.
Madam Speaker, we are not paying suppliers as he's saying. We are giving a subsidy. And he just asked me whether we are going to increase the number of products to be subsidized. You know, you must know what to say, whether to go for it or not to go for it.
Chief Whip, your question.
Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente. Dans le passé, lors de la Covid-19 et du conflit en Ukraine, la population a été témoin de l'attribution des contrats controversés aux quincailleries et bijouteries. Le ministre peut-il rassurer la Chambre qu'au regard de la situation actuelle au Moyen-Orient,
You've interrupted the leader of opposition.
I
You
think
stood on
it's
your
not a
feet.
statement.
It is a
It is a
statement.
fact.
You should apply the same rules to everyone.
Madame,
You did. Don't make me decide to suspend the sitting. You did make a statement before you put your question, and I had told you in the past. I don't want every time that member of the opposition will tell me that I'm looking on one side only. Put your question. Questions, I say again, I said it last Tuesday, questions must relate to the original question. Don't make a statement. Don't make any statement.
je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente. Le ministre peut-il rassurer la Chambre? Que dans le passé, il y a eu l'attribution des contrats controversés aux quincailleries, aux bijouteries, etc., etc., qu'au regard de la situation actuelle, ça fait mal. Mais c'est une question straightforward.
The question
Je comprends le leader de l'opposition. Oui, oui. Je comprends l'embarras du leader de l'opposition. Oui. Son ami d'enfance. Le ministre... Je comprends. Le ministre peut-il rassurer la Chambre? Dans le passé, il y a eu l'attribution des contrats controversés aux quincailleries et bijouteries, etc., etc., qu'au regard de la situation actuelle au Moyen-Orient, que de telles dérives et exagérations ne se reproduiront pas. Merci.
Members, I have 2 more minutes left. Okay?
Madam Speaker, I reassure the House and the population that we will follow all procedures, unlike the previous government.
Okay.
For petroleum products, for example, we signed with OQ Trading and we did a savings of 1 billion rupees only on premium. And on LPG gas, we save 400 million rupees only on fuel.
Honorable Juman, don't make any statements, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Given the current situation, can the Honourable Minister say whether fuel, petroleum product and gas prices are expected to rise? And if yes, Madam Speaker...
No, let him answer first. Not two questions.
Madam Speaker, when we are looking at what is happening around the world, we should expect at any time. But let me give you some example. In Australia, we already have 12.5% increase in gas oil. In Estonia, we can see 15% on more gas and 19% on gas oil. In New Zealand, 8.4% in more gas, increase in more gas, and 20.5% in gas oil. In Poland, 10% on more gas and 22% on gas oil. In Mauritius so far, 0% increase for more gas and 0% increase on gas oil. We will let the PPC monitor the situation.
Okay.
And when the time comes, they will announce an increase.
I've got two members, Mr. Francois and Mr. Duval. Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister, should the inflation rate increase to 6%, whether in relation thereof and the existing high rate freight rate between Mauritius and Rodrigues, government is or will consider to control more basic commodities or to review for a reduced freight rate or to increase subsidy to relieve the high cost of living in Rodrigues pour soulager la population de Rodrigues. Merci.
Okay, special.
We'll take it in the subcommittee and we will consider if needed.
Okay. Mr. Duval, last question. Yes?
The Minister has tried to be reassuring. Can I ask the Minister whether he has projections that have been made with regards to his plan A to B to C to D to E, how there will be an impact on the prices of more gas, petrol, etc., whether it is from the special contracts that are being, procurement contracts that are being awarded for Singapore, whether it is, if the situation worsens, we never know, it is a fluid one, if he has, therefore, projections, and if so, can he make those projections public? Because thousands of Mauritians are depending on a stability of these prices.
Yes, Minister. You will
Madam
make
Speaker,
it public.
This is a volatility situation. And I am monitoring the situation almost every day. And I am also communicating to the press almost every day. I cannot do more than this.
Okay, time is up. Time is up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was a very important question. Yes. Give me 1 second. Yes. Now we go to PMQT. Honourable members, the table has been advised that PQB 118 and B132 will be replied by the Honourable Prime Minister, time permitting, and also PQB 84, addressed to the Honourable Prime Minister, will now be replied by the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade. I now call on Mr. Jaman.
Thank you, Madam. B76, please.
Madam Speaker, Section 56 and 113 of the Financial Crimes Commission Act provide that when the discharge of their functions, the Financial Intelligence Unit and the Mauritius Revenue Authority, amongst others, have reasonable grounds to suspect an illicit source of income, they shall refer the matter for investigation to the Financial Crimes Commission, which has been empowered to seize assets pursuant to Section 61 of the Financial Crimes Commission Act. Madam Speaker, the FIU is responsible for receiving, analyzing, and disseminating financial intelligence. It analyzes suspicious transaction reports received from regulated financial institutions, and where indicators of financial crimes are identified, refers cases along with supporting evidence, that is the intelligence reports, to the FCC for investigation and enforcement. Madam Speaker, so far as the MRA is concerned, it is responsible for the administration and enforcement of revenue laws, including the collection of taxes, duties, contributions, and levies. MRA plays a key role in combating tax evasion and related financial offences. In cases where there are reasonable grounds again to suspect the commission of a money laundering offence or the existence of unexplained wealth, the MRA refers such matters to the FCC for inquiry in accordance with the relevant provisions of the Income Tax Act and the Financial Crimes Commission Act. Madam Speaker, it is opportune to highlight that in accordance with Section 132 of the Financial Crimes Commission Act, there is provision for the setting up of a National Coordination Committee under the chair of the Director General of the Financial Crimes Commission for combating financial crimes, which consists, among others, the Director of the Financial Intelligence Unit and the Director General of the Mauritius Revenue Authority. Madam Speaker, in view of the fact that these institutions operate in a totally independent manner, so I'm not, it won't be in order to provide the information requested by the Honourable Member.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Yes? Yes?
Madam Speaker, may I ask the Prime Minister? There has been many seizures in the last few months, which is a very good thing, but it highlights a major problem. There are tens of millions of assets being bought in car dealerships by persons which are being prosecuted at the moment for money laundering. The question is whether the Prime Minister has received information for the need to severely strengthen and toughen KYC legislations and requirements on car dealers, whether brand new cars or second-hand cars, because it is not normal that there are, if you look at yesterday's seizure, nearly 100 million rupees of cars bought at one dealer, whether he finds it normal and whether he does not find the need now to come with severe and more stronger legislations.
Short and direct, please. Yes.
No, I don't find it normal, and we hope that we will catch even all these people. But the law is very strong already on this. It's very pertinent to look at the law and to see what are the penalties that are being given. So there's no need to, again, go and consolidate a law that is already very severe.
Madam Speaker, if I may, a second question. Then may I ask the Prime Minister, how is it then, if the law is sufficiently strong at the moment, why is it then that persons who are involved in drug trafficking, suspected, are allowed to go and to buy a car for 20 million rupees and goes 3 cars or 4 cars at one dealer? How is the law now working in that sense? May the Prime Minister say whether any prosecutions have been laid against any of those persons who have facilitated those transactions of money laundering by selling such high-value assets to people who are clearly tainted, who are clearly using tainted proceeds.
That clear, as you say. They are in possession of the cars. There is no evidence that they actually bought the cars.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Mr. Jaman, you didn't have anything else. Mr. Bijan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B77.
Madam Speaker, the grades of Senior Chief Executive, Permanent Secretary, Deputy Permanent Secretary, and Assistant Secretary, formerly known as Assistant Permanent Secretary, form part of the administrative cadre of the public service. The administrative cadre is involved in the formulation, coordination, and implementation of government policies, goals and objectives, and providing administrative support to the machinery of government. The officers of the administrative cadre are also called upon to give advice and support to ministers on the current government business, including their parliamentary duties, drafting and administration of legislation, initiating and implementing programs which aim at enhancing the efficiency, effectiveness of any department of government where they are posted. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Section 89(4) of the Constitution, supervising officers, including senior chief executives and permanent secretaries, amongst others, are appointed by the Public Service Commission, subject to the concurrence of the Prime Minister. In regard to the deputy permanent secretaries and assistant secretaries, they are appointed by the Public Service Commission, and their postings fall within the ambit of the responsibility of the Secretary to the Cabinet and Head of the Civil Service. While posting these officers, the Secretary to the Cabinet and Head of the Civil Service ensures that they get the opportunity to acquire appropriate experience and exposure in the management of the whole administrative machinery of government. However, the duration of the posting is subject to the exigencies of the service. In regard to Part B of the question, Madam Speaker, I'm tabling the list of officers.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Umia.
Thank you. B78, please.
Madam Speaker, I wish to state very clearly that I strongly condemn any acts of assault, intimidation, or molestation against police officers and other public officers who are carrying out their duties. Government will not condone any such behavior and will continue to ensure that firm action is taken against all such offenders. These men and women are in the front line, ensuring public security. Any violence against them is not only an attack on individuals, but it is also an attack on the very fabric of our society. In fact, under Section 159 of the Criminal Code, the offense of assault upon agent of civil or military authorities, including police officers, acting in the discharge of their duties is liable to a fine not exceeding 25,000 rupees and imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. Under the Public Officers Protection Act, any person who resists, opposes, molests or obstructs a public officer in the performance of his duty commits an offense and is liable upon conviction to a fine not exceeding 200,000 rupees and imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years. In regards to Part A of the question, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that for the period 1st of January 2024 to the 19th of March 2026, a total of 247 persons have been arrested for the offense of assault upon agent of civil or military authorities. Out of these, 27 persons have been convicted as at date. With regards to cases of molesting police officers for the same period, I'm informed that 144 persons have been charged, out of whom 12 have been convicted as at date. In regards to Part B of the question, I'm informed that several measures to address and prevent assaults on molesting police officers in the discharge of their duties have been put in place by the police, and they are as follows. 1, police officers are provided with continuous training in safety and self-defense, including the use of appropriate restraint techniques and equipment so as to enable them to respond effectively to potentially violent situations while minimizing risk to themselves and to the public. 2, police interventions, particularly in identified hotspots and during large public gatherings, are carried out with the support of specialized units, including the Emergency Response Service and the Divisional Support Unit, to ensure adequate backup and rapid response capability. 3, the police are also making enhanced use of technology, including the Safe City camera system, for a more effective operation planning and action. 4, community sensitization initiatives are conducted through the Crime Prevention Unit and community policing programs to raise awareness on the role of the police, but more importantly, on the legal consequences of assaulting or obstructing police officers. Madam Speaker, as I've already informed the House, police will use body-worn cameras by the end of March and will introduce the use of tasers. These measures will contribute to deter acts of aggressions against police officers. Madam Speaker, I have to make it very clear that we cannot and will not tolerate any assault on any police officer. People must learn to respect the uniform. In view of this, my government intends to review the penalties higher in the Police and Criminal Justice Bill, which we'll be bringing to Parliament shortly.
Yes, Dr. Omir.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In an attempt for severe deterrent action, when we look at the number of cases, 247 and 144, will the Honourable Prime Minister consider in the setup of the Police Criminal Bill, which is coming further, that the harshest deterrent factor would be not to allow bail to any of those causing physical abuse or molesting, as evidenced in safe city cameras or body-worn cameras, which will come into effect at the end of March. These people should not have bail. They should not be on our streets.
Unfortunately, I cannot say that because it will depend on the court. The court will look at the case individually, each case on its own merit, and then decide whether bail should be given or not.
Séparation des pouvoirs. Yes, Mr. Bichuk.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Considering the prominence of social media, will the Honourable Minister also, Honourable Prime Minister also consider to tighten the rules and also punish those who record and broadcast those videos of verbal and physical aggression towards our police officers, which have unfortunately contributed to trivialize violence against our police officers?
I totally agree with the Honourable Member, and we are in fact we are in the process of with the Honourable Minister in the process of having a government-to-government agreement with the Government of India. In fact, to look at all these things that are happening here, we've seen recently cases, and we will tighten the law on this.
Okay. Yes, Honourable Duval.
May I speak? May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister? In fact, I'm reiterating
You've asked before,
a
yes.
question that whether he will consider to have specialized units like the SSU, etc., in present with normal police officers who conduct roadblocks, stopping of vehicle and contravention, etc. Because we've seen yesterday, I think, or the day before, there was an incident in Portland where police officers were taken to task by a group of persons after having booked someone. So whether he will consider giving instructions to the Commissioner of Police
yes.
so that roadblocks, so that police officers conducting roadblocks have enough support with the specialized units.
Specialized.
Pass that information to the Commissioner of Police. I can't direct him how to operate his police force, but I can give him that information.
Good. Next question, Mr. Bichuk. Yes.
Yes, Madam. B79, please.
Madam Speaker, as I have stated on several occasions, the economic mismanagement and irresponsible fiscal stewardship of the previous government have driven our sovereign credit rating by Moody's perilously close to junk status. The House will recall that in June 2012, when we were in office, Moody's upgraded our credit rating from Baa2 to Baa1 with a stable outlook. I should add that before the 2014 election, because we had managed the economy with prudence, public debt was 59.5% of GDP. In other words, lower than 60%, as it is in the European Union. This rating remained unchanged until April 2020, when the deterioration in macroeconomic management by the previous government began to raise serious concerns. There was a marked departure from prudent fiscal management that was eroding confidence in the sustainability of our public finances. Consequently, Mauritius was downgraded by Moody's, not on one occasion, not on two occasions, but on 4 occasions. In April 2020, the outlook was changed from positive to negative. In March 2021, the rating was downgraded from Baa1 to Baa2 with a negative outlook. In July 2022, the rating was further downgraded to Baa3 with stable outlook. And finally, in January 2025, the outlook changed from stable to negative. That is the lowest investment grade rating. Madam Speaker, simply on the quantitative aspects of the scorecard of Moody's, we should have been downgraded to junk status. Against this background, I sent a high-level delegation to London to discuss with the top management of Moody's to explain our economic and fiscal consolidation plan and our commitment for structural reforms. That included the pension reform, which had become unsustainable, as the IMF and the World Bank have been saying since the previous government was in office. But they turned a blind eye, of course, to that. We avoided the downgrade with our intervention, and bold fiscal consolidation measures were implemented. The consequences, Madam Speaker, the consequences of a downgrade to junk status would have had incalculable and far-reaching effects, such as lower investor confidence could slow down the FDR inflows or trigger capital outflows as foreign investors try to reduce their risk exposure. B, reduced investor confidence and capital outflows would lead to a depreciation of the rupee, which would in turn increase import costs and inflationary pressures. That is why I'm surprised when the leader of the opposition says what he says. He seems not to realize what they have done, the crime they have committed, economic crime against this country. Third, reduced investments, higher costs and depreciation of the rupee would lead to lower economic growth. A downgrading of the credit rating of our commercial banks would reflect the sovereign credit rating, which will make our international business difficult and more costly. In view of the increased risk perception, government, banks, and businesses in Mauritius would inevitably face higher interest rates, and new debt borrowing will become even more expensive if you get the loan. Madam Speaker, let me remind the House that these consequences would have had ripple effects on the population at large. A large proportion of the non-resident deposits in the banking system are very sensitive to the investment grade. A downgrade could trigger a significant capital outflow, which will destabilize the forex market that remains under pressure in spite of the improvement of our external balance and the regular interventions of the Bank of Mauritius. This would add additional pressure on the value of the rupee, which would in turn increase prices significantly, affecting the purchasing power and the living standard of the population. The Macroeconomic Coordination Committee, which comprises representatives of my office, the Minister of Finance, the Bank of Mauritius, Statistics Mauritius, and the Economic Development Board, is closely monitoring developments related to our sovereign credit rating. The committee has also undertaken various scenarios analysis and stress testing to assess potential risk and policy responses. Mauritius remains under close scrutiny of Moody's, and the government is doing everything within its powers to prevent a further downgrade to junk status. Madam Speaker, allow me to make a point regarding Standard & Poor's, which is another rating agency. In February 2023, the previous Minister of Finance had requested the Bank of Mauritius to enter directly into a contract with S&P to carry out a second sovereign credit rating in Mauritius. The file was being handled by the very special advisor at the level of the Bank of Mauritius. There are no official records at the Ministry of Finance for such a request. As a matter of principle, Madam Speaker, the sovereign credit rating is the responsibility of government through the Ministry of Finance. The contract was not renewed in March of this year due to the fact that there are no immediate plans for the government to tap the international debt markets, which you need two sovereign credit ratings for tapping the international debt markets. The House may wish to note that S&P published its first sovereign credit rating on the 21st of July of 2023, and the most recent one was published on the 27th of October 2025. with a rating of BBB negative, stable outlook. The BBB negative rating is the lowest rating at investment grade. This was not, as some people are trying to say, especially from the MSM, we know who they are. They are trying to say it's a preemptive strike to avoid scrutiny, contrary to the false narrative that is being peddled. It is not at all the case as I explained, Madam Speaker. We will, and I must say something else, Madam Speaker. We have embarked on a difficult yet necessary fiscal consolidation within last year's budget, strengthened institutional governance of key institutions, and upgraded our data dissemination standards to the IMF's SDDS+. We are the first country in Africa to attain that level. The IMF has highlighted in its communique, and let me quote, Madam Speaker, by adhering to the SDDS+, Mauritius meets the most rigorous standards for the dissemination of existing essential macroeconomic and fiscal data on the state of the economy and its financial linkages, as established in the IMF's data standards initiatives. This achievement underscores the country's, that is Mauritius, strong commitment to data transparency vis-à-vis the public markets and the international community. End of quote. In addition, the government has sought and received technical assistance earlier this year from the IMF on fiscal responsibility frameworks. All these actions signal the government's strong commitment to anchoring fiscal discipline in cementing the reputation of Mauritius as a credible investment-grade jurisdiction for international visitors. Madam Speaker, just to end, I should also add that given the situation as it is, we will continue to monitor and implement our fiscal consolidation program to gradually bring down the budget deficit and public debt to sustainable levels. We need to rebuild the economy first in order to firmly place it on a high growth path while ensuring that the benefits are shared across the whole of the population.
Okay, yes, you're right. Okay, now Mr. Lobby, I think.
Yes, B80, please.
Madam Speaker, let me first inform the House that after the 2010 general election, I was made aware of a dispute between Mauritius and the Seychelles over 396,000 square kilometers of extended continental shelf in the Mascarene Plateau region. The governments of Mauritius and the Seychelles were in disagreement, and therefore we were going to the United Nations for the resolution of the dispute. I then decided to call the then president of the Seychelles, Mr. James Michel, and impressed upon him that Mauritius and Seychelles being two neighboring and friendly countries, we should make an effort to avoid having recourse to the UN for the resolution of that dispute, which would take about 10 years to be resolved. The then president of Seychelles immediately agreed with me, and he decided that we can make a joint commission by both, that is Mauritius and Seychelles, to the UN Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf. I must say, Madam Speaker, this initiative was highly commended by the then Secretary General of the United Nations. I think it was unique, in fact, that two countries decided not to go to the UN to resolve the dispute, but to come to an agreement between ourselves. In March 2011, the United Nations Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf conferred upon both Mauritius and Seychelles joint jurisdiction of an area of 396,000 square kilometers of extended continental shelf in the Mascarene Plateau region. The area is now referred to as the Joint Management Area. In March 2012, Mauritius and Seychelles signed a treaty to jointly manage the Joint Management Area. They also agreed to exercise sovereign rights jointly for the purpose of exploring the Joint Management Area and exploiting its natural resources. The joint management of Mauritius and Seychelles of the extended continental shelf remains a shining example of constructive international cooperation. With regard to Part A of the question, Madam Speaker, the progress of the joint management area was indeed addressed during the recent state visit of His Excellency Dr. Patrick Hermini, President of the Republic of the Seychelles, to Mauritius. Both Mauritius and Seychelles reiterated the commitment to sustainable development and sound governance of the joint management area, in line with the principles shared stewardship and mutual benefit. With regard to Part B of the question, during the recent state visit of the President of Seychelles, we both made a solemn joint declaration concerning the sustainable development of the joint management area in the Mascarene Plateau region. The declaration, Madam Speaker, reflects a deliberate political choice by both Mauritius and Seychelles in that sovereignty over the maritime resources must be exercised responsibly, sustainably, and in full respect of international law. The declaration operationalized the 2012 Treaty on the Joint Management and Continental Shelf in the Mascarene Plateau region. It embeds environmental safeguards into every aspect of resource exploration and exploitation in the joint management area. It affirms our commitment to the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea, the Nairobi Convention, and the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, particularly SDG 14. The declaration further consolidates the legal and institutional framework which the Joint Commission of the Joint Management Area has established for its effective joint management. These comprise a series of legal codes which have been elaborated further to the signature of the treaty. 1, the Environmental Code of Practice; 2, the Model Petroleum Agreement; 3, the Offshore Petroleum Safety Order; 4, the Joint Fiscal and Taxation Code; and 5, the Marine Scientific Research Code. In addition, Madam Speaker, progress in the following areas has been noted during the last meeting of the Joint Commission of the Joint Management Area. 1, the conduct of a sustainable exploratory fisheries and sea cucumber, potential for carbon credit projects, joint management area information system, oil spill contingency plan and monitoring, control and surveillance, geotechnical seismic survey, Monaco Indian Ocean Explorations 2022, domestication of joint management area codes, and progress on strategic plan for 2023 to 2027. With regards to Part C of the question, this government wishes to underline our readiness to pursue further technical discussions on the conduct of the geotechnical surveys in the joint management area, which are essential to improve scientific understanding of the seabed and its resources. The 2 coastal states are presently finalizing the agreement for the conduct of geotechnical surveys with the company CGG Veridien based in UK. These prospective activities will, however, be undertaken strictly within established environmental safeguards and in full adherence to national and international obligations, thus ensuring that the ecological integrity of the marine environment of the Mascarene Plateau is preserved while ensuring that conservation considerations remain paramount. Madam Speaker, the joint management area remains a strategic partnership between Mauritius and Seychelles. It is a symbol of our shared responsibility to manage the resources of the Mascarene Plateau wisely, balancing economic opportunity with ecological stewardship. The recent state visit has in fact reinforced this partnership and charted the course for deeper collaboration in the years ahead.
Thank you. Yes, briefly, because I'm short of time. Yes.
May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether he can enlighten the House whether there are existence of hydrocarbons within this joint management area? Is there any preliminary report further to the agreement reached in 2014 to have a preliminary report with regards to presence of hydrocarbons within the GMA? Do we have any preliminary reports?
We know that Seychelles had already started doing this even before we look at the mine. There are indications that there might be. We're still exploring.
Okay. Ms. Dawiaru, last question.
B81, please.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the Economic Development Board that the Mauritian Diaspora scheme, which was established in 2015, has attracted some 614 members of the Mauritian diaspora to return to the country. In addition, I'm informed that there have been instances of abuse in the availing of the benefits under the scheme. As announced in the 2025-2026 budget speech, we are reviewing the scheme to enhance its effectiveness and making it less restrictive in facilitating the return of our valuable Mauritian diaspora members, including highly skilled professionals, while at the same time addressing the loopholes which have allowed the abusers of the scheme. The Economic Development Board is in the process of finalizing the new scheme, which will be implemented shortly. I must remind the House, Madam Speaker, that we have announced in our government program of 2025-2029, in the formulation of a diaspora policy to better engage our diaspora in the development of our country. There are encouraging signs that highly qualified members of our diaspora are coming back to serve the country. I explained, I think I did say on a few occasions, that we now have members of the diaspora serving as the governor of the Bank of Mauritius, as the CEO of the Mauritius Telecom, at the State Bank of Mauritius, and also recently at the Forensic Science Lab. It is important that we strengthen our engagement with them and put in place the right framework to make the most of their contributions, especially in areas such as investment, skills and knowledge, remittance, as well as cultural and social ties. In this context, with the assistance of the International Organization for Migration, the services of a consultant have been enlisted for the development of a national diaspora policy and action plan. The consultant has already submitted a first report. A draft national diaspora policy with a governance structure for the Diaspora and Global Advisory Council has also been prepared. The report of the consultant is being validated by the International Organization for Migration in consultation with all the stakeholders. Our objective, Madam Speaker, is not only to encourage the Mauritian diaspora to return to the country, but also to participate in the national development regardless of location or distance from Mauritius.
Oh, very interesting. Yes, good. Now I have, table has been advised that several PQs have been withdrawn. B94, 97, 95, 90, 85, 88, 82, and 93. Thank you. I think we can stop here, and we will start in 1.5 hours with questions addressed to honourable ministers. Is that all right? Thank you.